Psych 101 students. This is Professor Rubenstein, and we are talking about Unit 4 today. And I'm sharing something on the screen with you, as you can see here. But first, let me just tell you a little bit about why I'm making these videos. I don't think I ever mentioned it before. Over this course of the semester, especially during the horrible year of 2020, a lot of my online students said they wished there were a component where they got to see me talking about the material. So I decided to add these videos just for you to get some sense of what it's like to have, an in-person class. But you all by now probably realize that you are taking an online class. It's very divorced from the idea of walking into a classroom, sitting down and listening to the professor talk and interacting with your classmates. If that's something you really enjoy and you think you really need to learn, then maybe you need to switch from online to in-person classes. So for example, this course that you're taking right now online, I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Northwest Campus from 12:45 to 2 p.m. So you might want to think about taking that class or one of my human sexuality classes or a different class next semester. Of course, you have to be near Northwest Campus because that's where I teach. And I've had students from Massachusetts and from Thailand and all over the world. So obviously, if you live far away, you can't do that, but it's just something to think about. Okay, so this week we are Unit 4, and we are talking about learning and about memory. And that's Chapter 6 and Chapter 8 in your free online textbook. This week, the only things you have to do are you have to take the Unit 4 exam and you have to take the Unit 4 self-tests. So please make sure you do that as soon as you can, especially after you read the appropriate chapters. That's what you have to do first. The material and learning that you have to know about is you have to know about operant conditioning and classical conditioning. Those are two of the three main ways that we learn. What you're seeing on the screen here is an example of classical conditioning. So the terms that you need to know about classical conditioning are unconditioned stimulus and response, which you can see at the top there, and conditioned stimulus and response. So an unconditioned stimulus, it just means you don't need to learn that. This is a reflex. It happens automatically. If you have a passionate kiss with somebody you care about, most people will get sexually aroused. So those two things, it's a stimulus response relationship, and it's unconditioned. You don't learn it. It just happens. But what happens if every time you get that passionate kiss, your partner smells like onions? So the onion breath starts as something neutral. Maybe we don't like it, but it has no meaning for you. But every time you get a passionate kiss, you smell onions and you get sexually aroused from the kiss. Eventually, just the smell of onion breath, believe it or not, is going to get you sexually aroused. You have to trust me on that, but it's absolutely true. And if you don't think about it with onions, think about a song on the radio that you hear. If you hear the song or you hear a song that you're playing on your phone every time you're kissing or having sex, it's sexually arousing. Eventually, just hearing that music will get you sexually aroused, or even the idea of perfume, a special perfume your partner wears or an aftershave your partner wears. Eventually, that smell can also lead to sexual arousal. It's not because you're weird. It's because of this process due to classical conditioning. So classical conditioning depends on what happens before. So the scent of the onion, the scent of the sound of the music, whatever it is, that comes before, and then the response comes afterwards. Operant conditioning depends on what comes after. So if you perform a behavior every time you tug your ear, let's say, I'm just giving you something at random, somebody pays you $10, eventually you're going to be tugging your ear all the time so you can earn the money. This is how we train animals with operant conditioning. So you give your dog a reward every time he sits for you. You give your dog a reward every time he holds up his paw. Circus animals are trained using operant conditioning, and it's a very reliable way for animals and for people to learn. So make sure you read about this in your textbook. There are some of what you need to know about operant conditioning. Some of the main terms are obviously reinforcement, that's a reward if you want to increase the behavior, and punishment, is just what it sounds like, and it's a way to decrease the behavior. So just make sure you cover this in Chapter 6. Chapter 8 is about memory. There are 3 types of memory. There's sensory memory, short-term, and long-term memory. You need to know about eyewitness testimony too, which is notoriously unreliable, by the way. Very often people are convicted of serious crimes and often given the death penalty based on eyewitness testimony from somebody who was there and claims they saw the whole thing, and very often they are wrong about what they saw. So just make sure you read about that. I think that's it. You need to know about mnemonic devices. These are things like Roy G. Biv, which helps you remember colors of the rainbow, or Holmes, which is all the Great Lakes in the Midwest. So these are just simple ways that you can remember things. They're devices that help memory. So just make sure you read about that. And once you know all these terms, I think taking the Unit 4 exam will be very easy for you. So please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you for the next unit, which will be Unit 5. And by the way, once you finish Unit 4, you're halfway through this Introduction to Psychology class. So good for you. Bye-bye.